What is up, my spectacular Spider Spy spectator spec powers here? You can call me Mr. Pixar fan or Mr. Incredibles fan because it is time for me to do a YouTube video on my review of the movie The Incredibles. That is right, everybody. The hit 2004 Disney Pixar film directed by Brad Bird, starring Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, Samuel L. Jackson, Jason Lee, just to name a few. And so yeah, let's get on with this, shall we? Now, I'm going to be honest with you people. I do have a DVD copy of the film, but it's in this machine thing. It's a long story. That's another story. I'll say that for another YouTube video in the future. But and the cover, my family and I threw it away since we only just have the disc, and it many years ago. But here it is on Disney Plus. So here's Mr. Incredible, Mrs. Incredible, aka Elastigirl, Jack, Dash. You can only see part of his face, and Violet. That's the Incredibles family right there. They're basically They're basically a revamped version of the Fantastic Four. Like Fantastic Four is Disney too now, technically in a way, because the MCU at the time of this recording, like next year at the time, soon it's gonna be released, the new film, and here we go. So again, this movie came out back in 2004 when I was 3 years old. I remember when I first saw the commercials of this movie, I was like, wow, I was excited for this movie. I unfortunately never saw this movie in the theaters, but I remember seeing the commercials about it like on Playhouse Disney, which is now Disney Junior at the time. Oh my gosh, speaking of which, 20 years already since it's now 2024 at the time of this recording. This upcoming November, it's going to mark 20 years since this movie first came out. And I remember, and oh, and if you look carefully over here, there's a nice Easter egg on Jack's bib. Right there, let's focus. Come on, let's get a. There's Nemo. Pixar likes to do hidden Easter egg references to other Disney and Pixar material. And I remember the 2004. But I even remember the commercials of the McDonald's toys. I remember buying some of the McDonald's toys back in the day, and it was so fun. So much fun. I remember I got Jack and Dash, or only I think, or the car. I know I got Jack. I remember because I remember playing with him on the table at the McDonald's restaurant when I was little, and I was so excited that I had an Incredibles toy. So, and here's the nice logo right here, the eye, and the Incredibles titles right there. 2004, 1 hour 57 minutes, animation, action, and adventure when it comes to genre categories. A family of supers forced to adopt civilian lives returns to action. So, for those of you who don't know what this movie's about, it's about this guy, like the protagonist is Mr. Incredible. One day it's set in a retro 50s or 60s time period era, and Mr. Incredible's performing duties as a superhero one day, right? And then one day he indirectly causes an incident that causes people to file lawsuits against him and other superheroes, being like, "We've had enough of supers. We want to get rid of them," and they got rid of them, making supers illegal. So Mr. Incredible, and all the other supers, including Elastigirl and Mr. Incredible's best friend slash colleague, Frozone, voiced by Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah, baby. Yeah, mother. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna say that. They are all forced to retire their duties as supers, and that's what they call them in this universe, just supers, which I think is creative. And um, um, like before, I mean, in the midst of the crisis that causes the supers to become illegal, Mr. Incredible gets encountered by this fan multiple times who wants to join him, and then he rejects him multiple times because he works alone. And 15 years later, like after Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl get married and they have 3 kids, they move into a home and then one day Mr. Incredible gets an offer from this lady named Mirage, right? And about getting trying to take down about we're hiring you to get this robot, and then it later turns out the person who Mirage works for, who hired her to find him, is, spoiler alert, that fan from 15 years ago who wanted to join him, and he's getting revenge on Mr. Incredible for rejecting him, and he decides it's like a revenge plot scheme. So, and like Mr. Incredible and his family, they have superpowers, like even the kids do. As a result, they start formulating into superhero family slowly, piece by piece, but it works. Like Mr. Incredible has super strength. Mrs. Incredible, aka Elastigirl, she has super stretching abilities like Mr. Fantastic. Dash has super speed abilities like the Flash and Quicksilver. Violet, the oldest of the 3 kids, she has invisibility powers, like basically like Invisible Woman. Jack, he has multiple kinds of powers. Like he can light up on fire without hurting himself. He can turn into heavy metal. He can turn into a monster. He's bulletproof. Like really interesting stuff. And Frozone is like Iceman. He shoots out ice from his hand. He's like Iceman from X-Men. And Mr. Incredible, he's basically like the Thing and Superman. I mean, he doesn't fly, but super strength, like Superman in a way, and the Thing, and the Hulk in a way. And like, there are other superheroes that are like references to other superheroes, like Gazer Beam, who's a minor character in this film. He is a reference to Cyclops because he shoots out lasers and he has a visor thing. Stratogal, one of the superheroes mentioned by Edna Mode, who's the costume designer for the superheroes, voiced by Brad Bird. Stratogal is like Superman / Supergirl, the flying ability. So is Dynaguy, is another one, and a lot of those flying superheroes are basically references to Superman. And the thing that's significant about Edna Mode is that if you talk about having a cape for your costume, Edna Mode will say right away, no capes, because the capes can get you caught in things, and it makes sense. Edna Mode is kind of smart in a way. And like, it's so symbolic. It has multiple nice superhero references. Not just superhero, spy references. It's basically spy genre too. Like there's a Mission Impossible reference where like when Mr. Incredible opens up the message from Mirage, it's basically like Mission Impossible because after he gets the message about his mission offer, the message self-destructs. And it's like, and there's also reference to I also mentioned I already mentioned they mentioned a lot of superheroes. There are multiple there are some references. Yeah, there are a few references to the 1960s Batman TV show starring Adam West and Burt Ward. Like in the trailer for The Incredibles, the original one, Mr. Incredible has a telephone like that where like they reach out to him if there's an emergency so he can perform his duties as Mr. Incredible. That's basically a reference to the 1960s Batman TV show because Batman and Robin would have that telephone to call them for help when there's an emergency. And there's Mr. Incredible has the Incredimobile, which is basically like a reference to the Batmobile. And not only that, but it has ejector seats like in the 1960s Batman TV show. So that's another Adam West / Burt Ward reference. And spoiler alert, John Ratzenberger, the voice of Ham in the Toy Story franchise, and Mac in the Cars franchise, just to name a few. He makes a cameo appearance at the end of the movie as a villain known as the Underminer, who is a reference to Mole Man from the Fantastic Four. Like at the end, when he first shows up, he has a big drill machine that cuts through the ground and it pops out. That's basically a reference to the comic book cover of Fantastic Four issue number one, where like the Fantastic Four are fighting that Mole Man's monster or something like that. Interesting Fantastic Four reference. Like, and it ends on that cliffhanger where Mr. Incredible and his family suit up to take him down, and it's really awesome. And Wallace Shawn also makes a cameo appearance. He was the voice of Rex in the Toy Story franchise, and he was also the voice of the principal in a Goofy movie from 1995, and he also played one of those ghosts in the Haunted Mansion, the one with Eddie Murphy, which I personally enjoy. I mean, I personally enjoy the remake's okay too, but I mean, we'll talk about it in another YouTube video. But Disney. Yeah. And he was also in The Princess Bride, which I'll do a review of in the future. That's another good movie. I can't wait to do a review on, and it's on Disney Plus too. And I recommend it, by the way, if you want to. I just want to let you know. And yeah, great spy genre / superhero reference in this movie. It's it's really fun, and Craig T. Nelson does a great performance as Mr. Incredible. Holly Hunter kills it as Mrs. Incredible. Samuel L. Jackson is phenomenal as Frozone, and Jason Lee is so incredible as Syndrome. And all the voice actors are incredible in their respective roles. And concerning this, so yeah, it's really fun and it makes you feel like you're living with the family and their personal, like it shows details of the family's personal lives. They Brad Bird truly cares about the story. It shows that in this story. And Mr. Incredible's trying to figure out how to handle with his family and the superhero stuff, even though superheroes are illegal at the time at this time in the franchise at the time of the franchise. And I remember when I first watched that movie, after thinking about how it ended on a cliffhanger, I always was thinking about. I spent a long time. I started thinking for a long time. I started speculating for a long time. When is Incredibles 2 gonna come out? And it took 14 years, but the wait was worth it. And I can't tell you how incredibly excited I was when I first found out they were finally making it and the trailer came out, etc. It was so awesome. And I'll be doing a review of that in the future. So yeah, it's one of the best Pixar movies ever. Let's see what else they got here. I think these are just clips, right? Yeah, they got some behind the scenes stuff, and oh yeah, they got more stuff here. Feel free to pause and read that if you want. And yeah, I still can't believe it's gonna mark the 20th anniversary of the release of this movie soon. That's crazy to think about. And I even remember collecting all the fun storybooks too for The Incredibles and playing the video game from 2004, the video game adaptation, and the Rise of the Underminer video game sequel, which I both beat back when I was younger. I'm gonna do a YouTube video series of doing walkthroughs / playthroughs of those video games eventually. I have to go to form a task on trying to order a PS2 online. They don't do PS2s anymore, but I'm sure they're out. They sell them somewhere, and try to find a copy of those games. I'm sure they're out there somewhere. And I also bought Lego The Incredibles, the video game, 6 years ago at the time of this recording when Incredibles 2 was coming out. It was to promote Incredibles 2, and I played part of it. My sister played the whole thing, and It's like a recap slash revamp of the two Incredibles movies. Like as they said in the commercial slash trailer for that video game's release at the time, two incredible films, one incredible video game. And it never gets old when it comes to the word incredible and it comes to this Incredibles franchise. And expanded to other things like books and other kind of toys. They did Disney Infinity years ago before they canceled that, and yeah, it's really fun. So yeah, like I totally recommend it. It's, as they say, arguably one of the best Fantastic Four movies ever, since it's basically like the Fantastic Four, but not too similar. Brad Bird made it its own. I remember Brad Bird pitched it to the company that made the Iron Giant movie, which Brad Bird also directed too, but that movie didn't do as well. He at one point he considered making it a 2D cell animated movie like the Iron Giant, but he reached out to his colleague John Lasseter, who directed Cars and Toy Story, just to name a few, to pitch the movie, and they accepted his pitch and they greenlit the movie, and that's how it all started with the Incredibles franchise. And like um funny background story. Back then, I thought this movie was like a true story based on my family, or like it was like a fictionalized version about my family, because Mr. Incredible has similarities to my dad. Mrs. Incredible has similarities to my mom, including the hair look. Violet has similarities to my older sister, and I had similarities to Dash, and this was before my younger sister was born. So once my younger sister was born, it became more obvious it wasn't about us, because Jack's a boy and my younger sister is a girl. I remember I wanted my younger sister to be a boy, but I was little, as long as the baby's healthy, that's all that matters. And yeah, like yeah, the one of the most incredible movies ever. One of the most incredible family superheroes groups ever, in my opinion, honest opinion. I grew up with it, and I'm gonna keep watching this franchise till the end. So, yeah, very good 3D animation. It's really incredible, and they know what they say. It's about who. It's not just about what you know. It's about who you know to be successful in any career, especially when it comes to the film stuff field. One way or another. Sooner or later. Yep, sooner or later. So yeah, like it's also fun to when would see the Incredibles at the Disney parks and see the Incredibles merchandise I would buy. It goes on, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. We're 20 years into this franchise, and it is far from over, baby. It is far from over, everybody. You better believe it, because I know for sure, and I'm sure Brad Bird knows it too, for sure. For sure in this when it comes to this world. So yeah, like sorry, my nose is a little stuffy right now at the time of this recording. PG rated, great. I totally recommend it. Like, so yeah, The Incredibles, everybody, released by Disney and Pixar in 2004, directed by Brad Bird, starring Craig T. Nelson, Holly Hunter, Samuel L. Jackson, Jason Lee, Dominic Lewis, Teddy Newton, Elizabeth Pena from Modern Family, who's unfortunately deceased now. I just remembered. Wallace Shawn, John Ratzenberger, and the guy who voiced that clown character in Toy Story 3, I forget his name. He played that friend of Mr. Incredible. He's deceased too. I miss him too. We all remember and honor him every day too. He's a good guy too. And yeah, like and Brad Bird has Edna Mode. Don't forget that. Again, just to name a few. So yeah, one of the best Disney and Pixar movies I recommend. It's a good franchise. I also just found out, speaking of which, they just announced Incredibles 3's in the works at the time of this recording at D23 a few days ago. I will be doing a YouTube video on my predictions slash thoughts on that in the future, but I'm gonna do Incredibles 2 after this, and I'll see you in a bit. So yeah, rate, favorite, subscribe, even comment. I'll talk to people later. Incredibles, totally recommended. Disney Pixar. It's showtime. Incredible, baby.